Good afternoon. Are we ready to go now? Can we start?
Yes.
Okay. So today's press conference will be jointly addressed by the Committees of Finance. Okay. The press conference will be jointly addressed by the Committees of Finance and Energy, the minority members of the Finance Committee, together with the ranking member for the Energy Committee, Honorable Mutawakilu, will address it. To start with, Honorable John Jenapo will start, then Honorable Mutawakilu will add something to support what he said. So we welcome you, but let me also say that the issues relating to the hardships situation we are witnessing in the country as a result of the increases in taxes and a number of government economic policies that are not translating to our well-beings are not actually forgotten. We will come back to them after this press conference in the subsequent days ahead of us before. So be assured that we have not forgotten about those issues. We'll deal with them. So thank you very much. Honorable John Jenapo, please, you can have.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen of the press. On behalf of myself and my colleagues, we want to thank you for making time to honor this invitation, albeit at very short notice. Ladies and gentlemen, you may recall that on the 5th of August 2014, Ghana signed an agreement with the United States of America, acting through the Millennium Challenge Corporation on the sidelines of the U.S.-Africa Summit held in Washington, D.C. under the leadership of President John Dramani Mahama. The project was expected to significantly improve access to electricity, ensure that we bring about operational efficiency, turn around ECG, increase their profitability, and have a sustainable, reliable, and resilient delivery of power to the good people of Ghana. This process commenced under the NDC in a very transparent and competitive manner, which culminated in the selection of 6 companies that were pre-qualified, both through the RFQ stage and at the RFP stage. Unfortunately, however, assumption of office by the Akufo-Addo administration under the guise of a so-called local content participation, the government deliberately altered the original agreement in a manner and in a fashion to pave way for the contract to be awarded to a cabal of companies that have no track record in the energy sector. This cabal, upon critical investigation, has revealed that they are not experienced in the energy sector, but rather a group of friends, cronies, and MPP party apparatchiks, contrary to the original goals, objectives, and aspirations of the program. Members of the press, it has now become clearer and obvious, following recent developments, that Ghanaians have been given the biggest scandal in the energy sector. Another Boachi Ejako Akufo-Addo Ameri-like deal has been visited on Ghanaians by this corrupt and insensitive government with the award of ECG to its cronies. How can the Akufo-Addo government be so cruel to Ghanaians and ECG, a strategic institution with a workforce of 6,000 and an asset worth about 20 billion, be handed over and mortgaged to cronies, friends, and apparatchiks? This insensitivity, cruelty, and greed, characterized with corruption, must be thoroughly investigated and punished, because we cautioned them right from day one. Indeed, this is a clear opportunity for the special prosecutor to move into action, commence action, and do justice to this subject matter. You may recall that a joint memorandum signed by Mr. Boachi Ajakon and Ken Oforiatta on the 3rd of July, which was presented to Parliament, we cautioned them. Indeed, during the parliamentary sitting, we detected that most of the companies did not have the technical and financial muscle to steer through the affairs as far as the concession was concerned. Even more disturbing was the fact that we detected that some of the companies did not even have offices. As if that was not enough, some of the companies were hurriedly incorporated after Miracle of Manila won the contract. Much as we tried and advised, the MPP, characteristic of them and the Akufo-Addo government, refused to listen to good counsel and went ahead to implement this agreement despite the reservations we had at the time. It is therefore not surprising that the concession, which was initially well conceived by the Mahama government and executed in a transparent manner, has been driven recklessly into a ditch under this clueless government. Ladies and gentlemen, do not accept government's claim that they suspended the concession because of a so-called due diligence. This explanation is nothing but a ruse. Indeed, it is a smoke screen to cover up for government's own incompetence and government's own culpability. Indeed, I want to put on record that the Minister of Finance, Mr. Ken Oforiatta, was well aware that the guarantee that was posted was fraudulent. And I shall demonstrate to you with incontrovertible evidence that the minister knew that the guarantee was fraudulent. Ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hand a letter signed by Mr. Ken Oforiatta on the 7th of March 2019, appointing lawyer Akoto Ampao, a known lawyer of the president, during the case of the petition at the Supreme Court, to restructure the entire concession, constitute an SPV, and possibly incorporate additional people in the structure. In that letter, the minister confirms that the PDS structure was troubling, it was worrying, and was not fit for purpose. Another issue I want to raise is that if you post a guarantee, and I'm happy we have the ranking member on finance here, it should not take you more than 48 hours to determine the authenticity or otherwise of the guarantee. How come that this guarantee was posted in March, April, May, June, July, 150 clear days before you determine that? In a worst case scenario, at least within 48 hours, you will determine the initial one. If you intend to do a proper due diligence, in 50 days, you must determine the veracity of this guarantee, whether it is proper and fit for purpose or not. And so I hold a view, and we strongly hold a view as a minority, that this excuse is nothing but a smoke screen and cannot stand the test of time. Ladies and gentlemen, it must be placed on record that it is the MPP government that decided not to follow through on the initial requirement of the condition precedent as far as the guarantee is concerned. Indeed, the agreement has 45 condition precedents. The Akufo-Addo administration decided to waive 16 of them and convert them into conditions subsequent. You cannot sit on your right without recourse to Parliament, create a mess, create such a huge problem, and turn around to claim that you are doing the people of Ghana any good. Even more bizarre, as I said, is the fact that a lot of the conditions were breached. Let me put on record that the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Finance, all this while, knew that the guarantee was fake, but decided to turn a blind eye to this fraudulent agreement. Indeed, the Minister of Energy just yesterday indicated that the agreement was fraudulent. Fraud, in my opinion, is a criminal matter, And the lawyers will tell you that where there's fraud, it vitiates a contract. And so this so-called suspension is neither here nor there. We of the minority hold the Akufo-Addo government and President Akufo-Addo himself squarely responsible and liable for this embarrassing spectacle of international proportion. Government and officialdom are neck deep in this failed attempt to create, loot, and share. Ladies and gentlemen, still on the facts, the government has also, with brazen impunity of the highest order, violated Article 2.23G of the agreement. Article 2.23G of the agreement states emphatically that without limiting the rights of ECG, pursuant to Section 2.23, ECG and the company, that is the concessionaire, shall prior to the transfer date jointly prepare an ECG monitoring schedule and protocol consistent with this section. What this means is that even before PDS took over, there should have been an agreement for ECG to monitor PDS and ensure that they adhere to the protocols and agreements. Government once again failed to ensure that that was adhered to and waived this condition that was critical to the success of the agreement. By this unfortunate incident, ECG has thus far been incapacitated and not been in a position to ensure that its assets are well managed by PDS. The question to ask is simple. Why would public officials rush to push ECG to the hands of... Let me take that again. The question to ask is why would public officials rush to hand over ECG worth 18 billion cedis to PDS without ensuring that critical precondition agreements were met? Furthermore, detailed checks conducted by the minority has revealed that PDS has so far not injected the needed capital in the concession. On the contrary, PDS has resorted to appropriating all revenues collected from consumers in a bid to shore up its revenue requirements. What I'm saying is that PDS was supposed to inject capital. They have failed to inject the capital. They are rather collecting ECG monies and monies from you customers, putting it in their accounts and trying to shore up their accounts. In effect, what they are doing is using other state-owned companies' monies and IPP's revenues to artificially enhance their balance sheet whilst those companies wallow in spiraling debt. How can a company supposedly contracted to inject capital to improve the electricity sector turn around to exist on ECG's already existing funds for their operations? This is a clear case of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Ladies and gentlemen, the most important thing for us are the implications for you, the ordinary Ghanaian. What are the implications as far as these issues are concerned for the power sector, for the energy sector, and for the ordinary Ghanaian? As a result of this deliberate mismanagement of another very good project that was initiated by the Mahama administration, for the first time in the history of this country, independent power producers recently served a 7-day ultimatum to government to release funds to pay all outstanding debts that ECG has failed to pay, or else they would shut the system down. It is therefore our contention that the so-called debt the finance minister spoke about in the media review budget is not as a result of capacity charges, but rather arising out of the incompetence of PDS, selling power, collecting the monies, and failing to pay the IPPs. It cannot be because of so-called capacity charges. I want to ask President Akufo-Addo, why would the president decide to mismanage such a major project by his predecessor, which was designed to increase efficiency and ensure that we have a reliable supply of power, reduce financial leakages, and enhance profitability? Fellow Ghanaians, the so-called suspension of this concession is only a small screen. We are well aware that government officials are attempting to eventually turn this concession back to PDS in another form and deceive Ghanaians by claiming that they have now corrected whatever anomaly they detected. When there is fraud, we hold the view that you cannot correct fraud. Fraud is fraud. As it stands, the concession in its current state will certainly not serve the interest of Ghana. The concession is highly inimical to the aspirations of Ghana's power sector and can tip our dear country into doomsday because of choking debts, not because of IPP's lack of capacity or capacity charges, but because of incompetence, negligence, and gross corruption. This concession, if left to continue, has the potential of destabilizing the whole energy sector with very serious consequences, including rising cost of power and crippling power generation companies. Therefore, this specific concession agreement must be terminated without any further delay. And we want to re-emphasize this, that this current concession agreement, which has been railroaded in the most incompetent manner, must be terminated without any further delay. We further wish to serve notice that we shall not countenance any attempt to reintroduce any other so-called private sector players or the constitution of the SPV in a manner that is unacceptable. We call for transparency, we call for probity, we call for a competitive process in an open manner. We have therefore decided to come up with a 5-point demand and agenda, or what we describe as a 5-point program of action to ensure that we restore the sector.
May I please have your attention for this announcement? The public forum at the Justice DM and an auditorium is ongoing. All are invited to attend. Thank you.
It's likely
Ladies and gentlemen, to ensure efficient and sustainable delivery of power, and as a matter of urgency, we insist on the following 5-point demands. 1, like we said, terminate the concession agreement with immediate effect. 2, identify, and not only identify, but go ahead to prosecute those responsible for this fraudulent guarantee, as was confirmed by no less a person than the Minister of Energy. And not just identify and prosecute those in charge of this fraudulent guarantee, we must also identify, smoke out, and prosecute all government officials who collaborated in this scandal as far as the guarantee and the concession is concerned. 3, ensure full refund of monies and interest thereof collected by PDS during this 5-month period as a result of this fraudulent activity. 4, dissolve the current ECG board and appoint a competent non-partisan board that has the capacity to ensure that ECG continues to serve the people of Ghana in a much more effective manner. 5, restructure the current ECG management and ensure that they perform in an efficient and effective manner. Indeed, we would support government and the board to sign performance contracts and performance bonds with the current ECG management so that they can deliver. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, other legitimate options to delve into this scandal are knocking on our doors. And I wish to assure you that we shall use whatever legitimate means possible to serve you, the people of Ghana. We shall use whatever means possible under the Constitution to ensure that this government does not continue to shortchange you, the consumers. So we shall actively take advantage of these options if government refuses to heed to our patriotic call to save Ghana's energy sector and save ECG from the brink of collapse. We thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We stand in readiness, and we shall ensure that we serve you, the people of Ghana, without fear or favor, even at the peril of our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we will take the first round of questions. You raise your hand, and then we'll call. Oh, yes. I think, yes. So
let's take the questions, then you can answer them for us.
Yes. Yes, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
My name is Kweku Sechidanso. I work with GhanaMPs.com. My question is, earlier on, whilst addressing us, you talked about deep-necked people, chronics, friends, and apparatchiki. Can you name those people? And if the contract is not terminated, what next?
Ibrahim Alhassan, Star FM, DH1 TV. You talked about the Special Prosecutor Martin Amidu taking up this case. Yes, the Act allows him to do that, but as minority, will you petition his office to that effect?
My name is Abed Nego Asante. I report for Adum FM. Honorable Jinapo, you did mention that the Finance Minister, Honorable Ken Oforiatta, knew that PDS submitted a fraudulent document, and he went ahead to agree into this term. I don't know if you could explain it further to us. Thank you.
Yes, I work with Joy FM. I'm Parker Wilson. Honorable, you want government to terminate the contract and with immediate effect, and you claim that you are going to use all legitimate means available. One, I want to ask if the options would include petitioning the special prosecutor, and what are the timelines for the government to deal with this issue? Thank you.
Right, Bubu Klenogo, GBC Accra. Yes, I just want to find out from you if by chance you are able to tell us how much PDS will have collected within these 3 months. As for friends and party apparatchiks, you know them. I issued a statement telling you about the directors of the company. At least you know that the MP for Sekondi is a director of one of the company. He's an MPP MP. We know Sophia Koko and where she works. We know Philippa Yensu. In fact, if I mean to mention all the names, it will be unending. Even more disturbing is that the original agreement that was presented to Parliament, TG Energy Solutions, was supposed to have 18%. That has been changed to 28% without recourse to Parliament. And so this satisfies that. The other issue has to do with the special prosecutor. Like I said, all options are on our table. You will recall the minority leader himself sounding on the floor of Parliament that we would consider the option of a full-scale parliamentary inquiry. And so it's not just about the special prosecutor. All options are on the table. And we call even on you, the media, to support us in this noble quest to save our dear nation from the claws of those who are determined to wreak havoc on us. The issue of the Minister of Finance knowing that, I quoted that. The Minister of Finance himself, in March, wrote a letter expressing concern and stating that the company was not in a good state and asking that an SPV be constituted. And so that confirms it. I'll read it. Then there is the issue of ECG's collections. ECG currently collects about 6 billion cedis annually. So it means that on the average, they are collecting about 500 million cedis. That's half a billion cedi every month. These are huge sums of money. Go and check Ghana's total appropriation or total expenditure, and that will tell you that that's a huge amount of money. That is why we are demanding that all those monies so collected illegally and fraudulently must be refunded, and not just refunded, but refunded with interest. Thank you.
So we'll take the next round. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Richard. I work with Accra FM. Respectfully, the Minister for Energy, Peter Mewu, has said that they are going to probe into the matter. Now, the minority is also demanding that they should give a full probe into it. Is that not enough? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Kwesi Kumsing of the Punch newspaper. Yesterday, listening to Star FM around 5 p.m., Mr. Jantwa was saying that the minority also shared the blame because you started the whole process. So what do you say to that?
My name is Martin Kwe Eshrin. I work for Hot and Fox FM. Yeah, what I wanted to know is what has changed this time that the NDC or the minority is having trust in ECG this time? Because I know during your era, you had also wanted to privatize it. What has changed this time?
Okay, my name is Duke. I work with CTFM. My question has got to do with the fact that there's an ongoing inquiry by the state, and government has said that they are probing into the issues. What if the end of the matter is that the whole contract agreement is going to be terminated? What will be the minority's line of action if that happens?
Thank you. Let's take some of the questions. First of all, I wish you guys have been in Ghana. You have not been anywhere. You have already witnessed how many investigations that has been conducted by government and cleared. We are dealing with a very serious issue. And ladies and gentlemen, let's look at it. We are talking about the energy sector. That this government just came to Parliament to tell you that there's so much debt and that we have to increase taxes. The goalkeeper in the value chain that actually collects the money at the end of everything we are talking about has been given to people that, quite frankly, have been called into question. Our whole energy sector is at stake. We are saying that the way the government has handled this is suspicious. And we are saying that we need independent investigation. So really, nothing more, nothing less. And then you said that we brought this whole thing. Now let's talk about how this whole thing began. The history of this process was that the NDC government had dealt with the fundamental issues that were obstacles to the energy sector. We had dealt with the issue of generation. We had dealt with the issue of gas. Then we realized that the critical component is also the issue of distribution. How do we address system losses and customer service? And all at the end, we were able to make the case. And because of what we were doing, the United States says, we are giving you $498 million US. They did a constraint analysis, and we all agreed that the most critical constraint to our country's economic progress is to address the distribution issues. That's why this whole thing started. We went through diligently following all the process. Our hope was to get a very competent player, more effective than ECG. And here we go. Our friends come in and they use the pretext of local content, and all the critical players that could have played the better role withdrew. Is that not correct? That's correct. They left, and were left with Miracle. And as has been stated, this company was even given the contract when the local content partnership had not even been clear. It now turns out that 51% local content partnership has been called into question. We now know that the reason why Miracle was being carried and shepherded was because somehow the guarantee that Miracle was supposed to bring was not in place. Was somebody basically trying to give a protection to Miracle when they have not even met our condition and hand over an area that is so crucial? That is what is at stake. And that's why we don't believe that the government must be part of this investigation in any way. In fact, we believe that the United States of America that is spending $498 billion must be part of an independent investigation.
Thank you very much. I think we will have to do the Cree version, but before then, I make one comment, and then Honorable Mutawakilo will make the following another comment. Then we'll get Honorable.
I just want to add to what former Minister for Petroleum had said. We have witnessed several committees that have been set up to probe by the president, and it ended up bringing no results. One is the 5 million contaminated fuel at Bost. Second is the pre-mix fuel smuggling scandal. We are still here, we haven't heard anything. So we cannot trust the president and his cronies who are complicit in it. They themselves setting up a committee to probe. That's why we are calling for an independent, bipartisan committee to probe it. Thank you.
JJ, quickly, let me, as for me, I don't mince words. I say it as it is. You see, the truth is, what is going on now is just a small skin. The actual problem, in fact, the behind the news is that there's a boardroom wrangling for control. Simple, of PDS. Simple. So we are interested in who the beneficial owners are. So it's a fight for control. Who takes over the shares, the local content shares, the 51%. And so we don't want people to hide behind the guarantee and use the guarantee to cause some problems. No, we want to get to the bottom of the matter. So please, all this English, all what we want to say is as simple as that the Ghanaians, the 51% shares, people are fighting over it and we don't know who the owners are. So we want to find out who the owners are. So we are calling on the United States government, MEDA, that is contributing. In fact, MCC, to get involved into this, what is going on, and probe the matter with us. Because we want to probe the matter. Because this is an embarrassment to all of us as Ghanaians. It's so disgraceful, and it's a shame to our sovereignty. I think we have to deal with it.
I'll do the tree. My colleagues have answered your question, but clearly, the man who asked about the investigation, if I accuse you that you've stolen my money, how can you turn around and tell me that, allow me to go and investigate myself? It's not done anyway. For Pamucho, you better must be press Mabaha, and I affirm incredible ECG, a buying way. Aton ama oma omunim diebia ewo enyinamankane adwuma nim no anana enne edi animguase a eni kabia animguase a emu odu animguase mu animguase abre Ghanafo na nyeyen minority ne ye kan se sa agreement no eba ye edi ahokire amane hunu na abre Ghanafo nti ye pese aban animanimu ya tintontan otwam na yesan efa yentuma pa efra na enye no nko akeke ne ye kan se sika bia PDS age eye bosome num ye atwam no omfa sa sika no ene ho ensi ho ensan emra na womo a omobedi yesa bukata edi yesa nwuma nsem yi ene womo ka ho nyina no emra ene omu ne ne dwonwonyo ene senia esefata na yɛn dɔnkuma no yɛpɛ sɛ yɛde to dwa sɛ yɛbɛyere yɛn ho na yɛasom Ghana man na aban yi bukata ɔde yɛfa so yi no yɛahwɛ na ɔmagyae yɛdam ase bebree. Thank you.